Hi, my name's John Price, and this is a short video talking about the characters in a hand of bridge. And it's aimed at intermediate players of bridge. Okay, in any hand of bridge, you've got four actors willing to play the parts. And in Act 1, that's the bidding of the hand, you've got four possible characters. You've got the opener, just one of them, the responder, the overcaller, and the advancer. In Act 2, that's the play of the hand, you've got the same four actors willing to play new characters now. In Act 2, you've got the character of the declarer. You've got two other characters called the defenders. And in face-to-face bridge, you've also got a fourth character called the dummy. Though in online bridge, that's no longer a character. Let's talk about these different characters in a little bit more detail. Act 1. Well, first I want to say is that sometimes a hand of bridge doesn't have any characters at all. You could have four passes in the bidding. There's no opener, responder, overcaller, or advancer. In fact, there's no hand to play, so there's not even an Act 2. Thankfully, that doesn't happen very often, but it does occasionally. Slightly more, but also very infrequently, there is just one character. Somebody opens, and everybody else passes. So, there's an opener, but none of the other characters. And in the play of the hand, then you've got the characters as usual. But most of all, that's about 60% of the time, you'll have an opener and a responder. So what's an opener? An opener is the player who first bids and also has an opening hand of 12 points or more. Now notice that. In lots of bidding play, there are people, the characters, who will open with something like a weak 3. They open 3 hearts straight away. Why did they do that? Well, they've got loads of hearts, usually 7, and they've got 6 to 9 points. Are they an opener? Because they've opened. Not in my definition. An opener is somebody who's the first person to bid, but also has a hand of 12 points or more. That's when bidding systems like ACOL or 5-card majors come into play, and it's the opener who will obey whatever those systems are set out. So that's my definition of an opener. Notice there could be several hands which could have opened, but as soon as one player makes a first bid, nobody else can become the opener. That's critical. They're going to have to play some other character if they want to participate in the bidding. There's just one opener. Similarly, there can only be one responder, and that's the partner of the opener. If that person is able to respond, all of a sudden they become a responder, and they also have rules and regulations to follow if they're following ACOL or 5-card major. Much less restrictive than the opener, by the way, but still, they have their rules to follow, and they have their responsibilities as well. So about 60% of the time, there'll be one player who's following the rules and duties of an opener, and another player, his partner, playing the rules and fulfilling the duties of the responder. Now notice 60% sounds a lot, but actually in practice, for you as a player, 30% of the time, you and your partner will be playing the roles of opener and responder. But the other 30% of the time, it's the opponents who will be playing those parts, and you're sitting there quietly. You'll be listening very, very carefully to the speeches of these characters, just like the audience will be. But you are not actually participating as an actor. But about 40% of the time, there will be 3 or more characters in this Act 1, the bidding. There'll be an opener. That's the first person to make what I would call a valid bid with a hand of 12 points or more. And then there will be the responder responding to that. But then one of the opponents decides to intervene and be competitive. The first of the opponents to do that is called the overcaller. Now that overcaller will have 8 points or more and have a pretty decent suit which they've started the overcalling with, or following some other conventions. They may even have an opening hand. They could have opened, but they are not the opener now. They're not following the rules of the opener because that's already been taken. There's only one opener. And there's only one overcaller. That's the first of the opponents to make a bid. Sometimes everybody's involved in the bidding. And that means both the opener and her partner, the responder, are bidding. And one of the opponents has overcalled, they become the overcaller, and their partner also decides to get in the mix and starts being competitive, and that person's called the advancer. All of these characters have got their rules to follow and their duties to fulfill. And in subsequent videos, we'll take each little character and develop what those rules are. Once the bidding is finished, we move into Act 2. There's a shuffling backstage. The same 4 actors are now taking part, but in different characters. One, and only one, will be the declarer. The declarer is the person who can see not only his own hand, but also the hand of his partner. He can see 26 of the 52 cards and is in charge of, decides what to happen to those 26 cards. A very strong position. Then there are 2 defenders. They're the opponents. They also can see 26 cards, but 13 of them are their own and they're in charge of them. They can decide what to do with those. But the other 13 are the cards belonging to the partner of the declarer. They can see them, but they can't control how they're going to be used at all. And finally, if you're playing face-to-face bridge, then one player takes a very special role of becoming the dummy. I'm not going to talk too much about that later on, because a lot of bridge play now is online, and the computer takes the role of the dummy and not any of the players. So that's it. There are the list of the characters. I want to develop each one to see what are their responsibilities and duties and how do they fulfill them in the best possible way. Thank you for listening.